Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone, and that's the MVP battle we have been waiting for. This has been a weird series from both Shai and Jokic, who've had some really high highs and then some really low lows along the way. It's been a weird series overall, with Aaron Gordon becoming an all-star level player and the fouling up three stuff, and the Thunder not being able to win the clutch, but then winning the clutch last game to even it up, coming into game 5, which again was a clutch game. But the Nuggets were leading big in this one. They were up double digits, and a lot of people, kind of like I saw last game, a lot of Thunder fans were saying, oh, it's over, we're going to collapse, we can't do this, and they did it. They go up 3-2 in what was a heart attack of a game. I was trying to appreciate how special of a game this was in real time, but it's kind of hard when your team's in it. You're just like, this is the worst experience of my life. But this was genuinely an all-timer type of playoff game, and that is mainly because of the MVP battle. Jokic, he is obviously, an all-time player. He's the best player in the world, in my opinion. But you don't truly appreciate how terrifying he is until you watch him do the stuff that he does against your favorite team in the playoffs. If you've never had that happen before, I don't think you truly understand the magnitude of what he is capable of. Because in this game, 44 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals on 17 of 25 shooting. He hit 5 threes, including the 360 no-scope over Chet Holmgren late in this game. And when that shot went down, like the Thunder were building momentum and they got a little bit of a lead, and then Jokic hit that one, I was like, okay, is it possible to beat this guy? And shout out to Jalen Williams, he answered the call, and I believe he hit a 3 right after that, and then Shai hit the big dagger 3 that put the Thunder up to ultimately win this one by a decently comfortable margin at the end. But like, Jokic is just impossible to stop for a consistent period. The Thunder played some of the best Jokic defense ever. Like, Jokic statistically, I mean, I have to check the numbers again after this game because they probably changed a lot, but this has statistically been one of the worst Jokic playoff series ever when it comes to his efficiency, his production, and a lot of that I think is because of just being exhausted. He's had to carry such a big load offensively all regular season, all throughout the first round, where he's facing Zubats, one of the best Jokic defenders on the planet, and now this Thunder defense that is hyper physical with a lot of great bigs to throw at him. I think he's just exhausted. But you knew at some point Jokic was going to pop off. Like, there was no way he was going to spend the rest of this series just being underwhelming, and that's what happened today. This was one of the best games of Jokic's career, and that is a lot to say for a guy who has as many iconic games as Jokic does. Like, he did everything in his power to win this game, but in the end, Denver doesn't have enough. And that goes to, kind of the depth conversation. This is a team that doesn't have a lot of guys. Michael Porter Jr., 1 of 7, and he's dealing with a shoulder injury. I get that. Maybe he shouldn't have been on the floor at the end there, to be honest. If he's not hitting his shot, maybe you want Russell Westbrook, but also Russ shot 1 of 7, 0 of 3 from 3, including a horrific air ball, 4 points, 2 turnovers. Did have some good defensive plays along there. Jamal Murray was on fire at one point, and that's when the Nuggets built up this big lead, but finishes 10 of 27, 3 of 13 from 3, 28 points. It looked like his legs kind of started to go. 3 of 12 from Christian Brown, 6 of 13 for Aaron Gordon, which is super underwhelming with the way he's been playing in this series. The Nuggets, they're just not nearly as deep of a team as Oklahoma City. I think this is really where the rest advantage comes into play for the Thunder, because everybody thinks about game 1. It's like, oh, the Thunder had 9 days off between the Grizzlies series, and now like they're going to be so well rested, and the Nuggets just finished war, when I really think the reality was always going to be that by the end of the series, with less depth for Denver and having played a game every other night for now like 2.5, 3 weeks, at this point at playoff intensity, the team was just going to get exhausted. And I think that's what has started to happen to Denver over the course of these past 2 games, because now it's 2 games in a row where the fourth quarter offense just completely fell apart, and a lot of shots feel like they're short. It feels like guys are not getting the lift they need on their jumpers to knock down the buckets in those critical moments. And that is, kind of what the Thunder do. Being this physical defense, they wear you down. There's so many depth guys that you just see body after body after body. And a lot of those guys came up big today, like Alex Caruso, 3 threes for 13 points. That's why you trade for him. Case and Wall, some great defense with a couple steals, 4 points. Isaiah Hartenstein, 7 of 10 shooting, 15 and 7. Chet, 14 and 8. J-Dub, not his best shooting night, 5 of 14, but hit 2 threes, including the massive one to go ahead and, again, give them a 3-point lead, answering the craziest shot ever from Jokic. I know he hits that shot sometimes, but again, it hits different when it's against your favorite team. Like, so many guys on this Thunder squad stepped up, but it's not possible without Shai, who, like Jokic, has not been putting on his typical performance in this series, but this is an iconic game. This is one where Shai went ahead and shut the door. The last 15 points by the Thunder were either scored or assisted by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the Nuggets have done such a good job of throwing so many different coverages, doubles at different times. Like, they've schemed extremely well against Shai. They're playing some of the best team Shai defense I've ever seen. Like, that is a massive testament to what David Adelman and that team has done. They have been phenomenal in that category. But it reached a point in this one where Shai took over and said that doesn't matter. He hits that mid-range and one jumper, I believe it was over Jamal Murray. And he gets a couple layups in this one. He hits a couple more tough middies, and he ends up hitting that three. And I know a lot of people have had gripes with the pull-up three, with the step-back three in those clutch moments. But Shai's been practicing that all season, and he went ahead and he answered the call in that moment. Jokic dropped just a little bit too much, gave Shai the rhythm, the space. He knocks it down, the playmaking as well. He did end up with a decent bit of turnovers, 5 turnovers in this game. But in the second half, I think he only had 1. In fact, the second half as a whole, 8 of 12 shooting, 1 of 2 from 3, all 3 of his free throws knocked down, 24-4 with the steal and just 1 turnover. That's what superstars do. That's what MVP level players do, is they go ahead and they shut the door. And Shai, again, has not been up to the standard that the Thunder have needed him at for a few of these games in this series. He had a ridiculous game too, where he had the best plus minus ever and one of the most efficient 30 bombs in the history of basketball. But outside of that, he's had some really good fourth quarters. Like last game, also a really good fourth quarter, but they needed Shai specifically here. This was the biggest game that the Thunder have played since 2016, when they were in the Western Conference Finals against the Golden State Warriors. But since then, the Thunder have only won 1 playoff series, and that was last year, and the expectations now are much higher in the Thunder than they were last year when they're facing off against the Mavericks, because it's still like, hey, this is their first year here. They haven't made any big additions now. They've got Caruso, they've got Hartenstein, the experience is here, and I feel like people tend to think of experience as like a year-to-year thing. Like, you have to get experience 1 year, and then the next year you can make things happen. When in reality, to me, experience it's something that you can learn on the fly. Like, the Thunder got experience in games 1 and game 3 of the series. And I remember a lot of people saying the only way the Thunder are going to win this is if they get blowouts, which they're very capable of, but they're not going to beat Denver in clutch games. David Adelman, the Nuggets, have cited that they want to get to clutch games, those final moments, and let their championship experience take over. It was what they did, again, in games 1 and 3. But the last 2 games, twice in a row, the Thunder have been the far better team down the stretch in the fourth quarter, generating better offense, playing better defense. And this is what this team is capable of. They are learning on the fly. Mark Daigneault learning on the fly. And, this is why you don't always listen to armchair coaches, because a lot of people were saying, Mark needs to bench Lu Dort, and Lu Dort literally saved the season in this fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, he hits 3 threes. I think he shot 4, had 1 after so he makes 1, missed the 3rd, makes the 4th, and goes ahead, and it quickly goes from like an 11-point game to a 2-point game because of a Lu Dort solo 9-point run. And obviously, Lu has struggled in this series. But you don't throw in an 82-game sample size of him being a 40% three-point shooter for, just the way he's been struggling as of late. Mark Daigneault kept him in, and I can't even lie. I was, thinking to myself, do we maybe want to go with Caruso or Casey Wallace here as opposed to Lu? No, he stuck with Lu Dort, and Lu Dort rewarded him immediately. And Mark said after the game, I just don't bet against Lu Dort. That's kind of my philosophy, and it's a good one. Because he was never supposed to be this 40% three-point shooter after the way his career started, where the Rockets are literally not guarding him in the playoffs. But he goes ahead and he makes the plays to save the season. I think we're expecting the Thunder, because of the dominance, to just steamroll a lot of opponents, to make their way to the NBA Finals kind of unscathed, go on this historic run, because the net rating is insane, and they won almost 70 games despite dealing with injuries. And Shai was the MVP and this and that, one of the best defenses we've seen in a long time, but they are still a young team, and they do still need to get experience. I just think the difference between this team and a lot of other young teams all time, because this is the best team of this age ever, is that they're so good at learning on the fly. They can figure this thing out mid-process, and the series isn't over. Denver is still horrifying. I'm scared that Aaron Gordon is going to somehow get added like 6 threes after the fact, and it turns out we actually lost game 5 and I blacked out. This is still a terrifying team. The job is not done. And obviously the goal is a championship. It's not to make it to the Western Conference Finals like winning this series would do, but this is a massive test for the Thunder. It has been a battle. It's been a war. And that's what the Nuggets do. So much credit to David Adelman. They need to give him the head coaching job like literally the second the season ends, regardless of if they lose this series, if they win, whatever. He should be the head coach going forward 100%. He has done a phenomenal job. A lot of people are giving him slack for playing Michael Porter Jr. down the stretch and playing Jokic the whole fourth quarter because he seemed exhausted by the end, but I think he knew that this one was hyper vital. You really don't want to go down 3-2 to the Thunder, giving them 2 chances to win a game against you after winning now 2 in a row. He went for the kill shot, and they almost got it. That 360 from Jokic could have been considered the kill shot. Just nobody really else stepped up. I think that's the fatigue. I think that's the lack of depth, and that is what they need to address. this offseason. That's been the thought process around the Nuggets this entire season. So much credit to the Thunder. Again, a lot of people eulogizing them when they went down. I think it was 8 going into the fourth quarter. They were down double digits in the fourth. People thinking, oh, it's over. There's no way they come back from this. They're not built for this. They're not ready. They are ready. And, hopefully they're ready to go ahead and close this thing out. My original prediction was Thunder in 6. It has not gone the way that I thought it was going to in terms of getting to this point, but they have the chance to close it out in 6 on my birthday on Thursday. Fingers crossed that they do that. But just in general, like this MVP battle between Jokic and Shai, this is the one we've been waiting for. And it delivered. This is one of those that, looking back in the future, one of those NBA highlight channels is going to post in like 2035 or whatever, like 10 years down the line. And people are like, oh my God, I remember that Shai Jokic MVP duel. That was an all-timer. This is one of those games. So much credit to both those guys for answering all the slander, all the flack they've been getting over the course of these playoffs. This is what these superstar MVP level players do. And hopefully now that the game is over and, I'm not stressed anymore that everything's going to come crumbling down around me, I can go back and rewatch the highlights and just furthermore appreciate it because I do feel like I blacked out for parts of that game. But yeah, and then we also had the Pacers going ahead and closing out the Cleveland Cavaliers. So much credit to Indiana. They just completely outplayed Cleveland. And yeah, the injuries did factor in. Darius Garland did not look like himself. A lot of people are slandering him a ton, but I really do think that toe injury is bothering him quite a bit. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell is banged up a little bit. Evan Mobley, they're not 100%. But even still, the way that Indiana blitzed them, they never gave them a moment to breathe. They look like the better team for almost every single minute in this series. And that includes game 3 where they just annihilated, or game 4 rather, annihilated the Cleveland Cavaliers. It was like a 1-point game, something along those lines at halftime. That second quarter, the shot making, I've almost never seen anything like it. They have been probably the most consistent team in the playoffs so far. And that's despite playing, Giannis, who's terrifying, as well as Damian Lillard for part of that series before he ended up getting injured. And, playing this Cavs team that sure isn't at 100%, but they're still really, really good, even when not everybody is playing at their top strength. And this Pacers team has been doubted by so many people, and Haliburton was bad to start the season. I was even like, what is happening with Tyrese Haliburton? They were struggling. They were under 500. And since then, they've been one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Haliburton is one of the best offensive game readers I've ever seen. I swear he does not make the wrong pass, the wrong read ever in this game. He was on fire. He could not miss from downtown. Siakam is a great complimentary star, and they've just got so much depth. Depth really is kind of king, it feels like right now in the NBA. Nembhard, 18 points, 7 of 11 shooting. He is the definition of a playoff riser. 4 of 6 from Thomas Bryant, 9 points in his 10 minutes. Miles Turner had 10 points, hitting a 3 in there as well. Aaron Nesmith playing great defense, the way that he is elevated as a piece that a lot of people are like, I don't know what he's going to turn into from the Malcolm Brogdon trade. Here he is. He's really, really good. He's one of my favorite role players in the entire sport. Don't get caught up in the fact that the Cavs are dealing with some injuries. Show respect to the Indiana Pacers. This is a really good team. And if they're in the NBA Finals, it's going to probably be Pacers, Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, which is insane. I never would have told you that before the season and before the playoffs. It's like one at least of the Celtics and Cavs 100% have to be there. It's not going to happen. And, the Celtics now with Jason Tatum's Achilles, we don't know what's going to look like for them going forward. I might make a video on that, because when the conference finals come around, games are going to slow down a little bit in the NBA Finals. I'll make a video on the Celtics and kind of what the game plan is for them going forward here at some point soon. And it's the same thing for the Cleveland Cavaliers, because now the question is, what do? You won over 60 games. You were the 1 seed in the East very, very comfortably for basically the entire season. You start off like 17-0 or something like that. You were dominant. You had one of the best teams in your franchise history, and you couldn't make it out of the second round. Do you go for drastic changes? Do you say, hey, we were kind of beat up and this is our first run together? Do we just trust and run this thing back and maybe we make a move around the deadline? I think that is the much more realistic outcome. This team really just does not have the assets to make the big swing that I think some people are looking for. I've seen people say Giannis to Cleveland. I just don't think they have the assets anywhere needed unless they're willing to give up Evan Mobley, which I just don't think they are, and I wouldn't. Mobley was really good in this series, was probably their best player today, finished with, where the stats go, finished with 24 points, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks, 8 of 12 shooting. Mobley is so good, and he's rapidly developing. I think he is a player that you don't trade for absolutely anything pretty much. So I think they're probably just going to run this thing back for the most part. There are a couple changes maybe they can make. Maybe they move off of Jared Allen and you have Mobley be the center of the future, because Allen just looked kind of lost in this series. He was not doing a lot for you defensively, was not the offensive impact player that you would need him to be because the defense wasn't showing up. I think long-term, the solution might just be Mobley at the 5 and you find a different solution for his partner in that front court. I don't know who that is specifically, but these are conversations we can have. Obviously, we've got a lot of offseason ahead of us, so I will talk about Cleveland. If the Knicks win on Wednesday, May 14th, like I think they're going to, I think they'll probably close out the series. It's not 100% because the Celtics are still really good even without Jason Tatum. But assuming they do close out the series, the Pacers-Knicks Eastern Conference Finals preview will either be Thursday, May 15th, or Friday. Will probably be one of those days. I might go Thursday, just immediately try and go ahead and knock it out. I'm already starting to brainstorm like what I'm thinking for that series, and it is crazy to me that one of the Pacers or the Knicks are going to be in the NBA Finals. Not because they're bad, just because it's just such an unexpected outcome in what has been one of the weirdest playoffs we've ever seen. So yeah, those are my thoughts on these games from today. Let me know down below what you thought of the Jokic MVP battle. What did you think of the Pacers knocking off the Cavs the way that they did? What should the Cavs do going forward? Were you wrong about the Pacers? Let me know. I appreciate you watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. I appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.